Greetings, everybody. Abarigani, welcome. We are the Inland Area Kwanzaa Group. This is our weekly gathering study group in Nguzo Saba 365. Tonight we have a theme continuing with our celebration of our sisters, Black women, for a March, which is Women's History Month. And of course, we recognize it as Black Women's History Month. And we've been talking about issues related to our sisters. This week, we're having a discussion about Black women's health. And I guess before we get into it, I just want to connect that this discussion with the principles. We want to do that every week. And this conversation we're having tonight aligns fully with, I mean, we can always connect all of the principles, but more specifically, principles of the principle of Kujichagulia, self-determination, and Ujima, collective work and responsibility. I think are reflected in this conversation tonight, the material, the spirit of it and everything. So to connect that as we do weekly, we got a presentation tonight from somebody I know very well and somebody that everybody here knows very well, our sister, my dear wife, Sarah Shabazz Baker, who's going to be talking to us tonight in a presentation on lessons in Black women's health, where she's going to share some information about the current state of Black women's health in this society, with resources to inform and assist our women towards optimum health, including info to dispel some common myths that negatively affect health outcomes for our women. So we have about 30-minute presentation or so, a discussion coming up, and then we'll get into a question and answer after that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my dear Sarah Shabazz Baker. Go ahead and share that info with us, dear.
Okay, Abarigani, and hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining. So this presentation I decided to do for Black women's health. It's because for Women's History Month, I felt like it was an important topic to touch on. And so I decided to do it myself, even though I'm a very shy person, as you all know. I'm trying to share my screen. Or maybe it's this screen. Okay, sorry.
We can't hear you.
There I am. Okay, sorry. You can hear me and see the screen now? You can see the presentation? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the presentation again is on African American women's health concerns and what we all should know about it. I am Sarah Shabazz Baker. Okay, so for our introduction, I wanted to point out that according to the last US Census, there are 21.7 million African American women living in the US. Of these women, 1/3 feel as though they have been treated unfairly at some time by a healthcare provider. That is including doctors, nurses, anywhere on that spectrum. And it's 1/3 of them that we feel like we have been treated unfairly in some way. So these are some common things that healthcare providers have told themselves to make it easier to ignore Black women's pain. I call these myths. While these things have happened before, you may have known someone to do it. They could be Black, white, or anything else. It's not always Black women, and it's not always happening. So some things that people might hear or say is that Black women have a higher pain tolerance. And of course, that just depends on the person. It's said that Black women exaggerate their pain, that we try and get medicine for other family members or friends that don't have health coverage. So we basically are making up problems that we know someone else have to get medicine to give. And another common myth is that Black women ignore their own health. They basically, we run on fumes, we don't pay attention to warning signs or take care of ourselves. All these things are false, and they are not exclusive to Black women alone. The truth is that Black women care about their health. 79% of Black women focus on mental health, including seeing a therapist, meditation daily, or even seeing a primary doctor about their mental state. 77% get recommended screening and preventative care. This includes pap smears, breast exams, and other screenings. 71% track health indicators, including blood sugar, cholesterol, and any other indicator that's recommended. 57% exercise regularly, meaning at least 2 or 3 times a week. More truths. African-American women's health is in danger. That is a truth. And why do I say that? Well, it's not just the myths that are out there, but also these truths right here. So having high blood pressure happens in people, but compared to other people, they have a higher blood pressure rate, 58% compared to 41% of white or Hispanic women. 12.2% higher when it comes to being diabetic or being said to be diabetic. PCOS is very common in women in general. About 5 million women in the US deal with a hormonal endocrine disorder. However, of African-American women, almost 2% of African-American women deal with this. Miscarriages are common in pregnancy, and about 20% of all pregnancies end in a miscarriage, which is a high number. But of that high number, 43% African-American women are 43% higher. They're more likely to experience a miscarriage of that 20%. Stillbirths. So this is when it's different from a miscarriage in a way of miscarriages are prior to 20 weeks of a pregnancy, and a stillbirth is anywhere after 20 weeks and the baby not surviving. So being born and not surviving. Black women are more than twice as likely to have a stillbirth than any other group. When it comes to depression is very common now, especially after the pandemic and even before. It's talked about more just for everyone. but Black women are 4% more likely to report having major depression. And you can compare those numbers with men being 2.7% and white women being 3%. And then another big truth, Black women are 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than white women with no previous health problems. This is only talking about women. These are people are not diabetic. They don't have heart disease. There's no previous issue. They are still 3 times more likely to die during childbirth. And that is, to me, when I learned this, which was back in 17, when Serena Williams gave birth to her child, was the first time I heard that. And I read on it because of it, because that was disturbing to me. 3 times more likely, and there's no health issues. What's up then? Something has to be going on. So what is the real problem? If Black women, we care about our health, we do the screenings that need to be done, we exercise, we take precautions like everyone else. What is the problem? One of the problems is that Black women are not believed about their health concerns. So we speak up about them, but they get ignored or dismissed or brushed under the rug. And this is due to systematic racism. The myths that I went over before, all of those embedded in that, including the making up symptoms or feeling like they have a higher pain tolerance. All of that is embedded in the systematic racism. I found this quote in an article written by Erica Stallings, the article that could save Black women's lives, which is, I thought, a very good article, and I actually attached it, the link in this presentation. Black women face risk to their health from discrimination, both from health professionals who don't take their concerns seriously and from biological wear and tear caused by chronic stress. So it's both of those things. And then she gets into more what that chronic stress, what that is, what that's made up of. One thing that I do like is that people are learning. So I kind of knew some of this. I didn't know the numbers, but I kind of knew the unfair treatment and certain things. But after Serena Williams gave birth to her daughter is when I started looking, it caught my eye. I paid more attention to it, and not just me. I've talked to other people about this. Some people have actually brought it up to me before I said anything to them about it. So it is becoming more acknowledged and people are paying attention. In 2017, Serena Williams, who is known as one of the greatest tennis players, and you guys know, the best athlete of all time, it can be said, she gave birth to her daughter, and during that time is when she experienced some problems. And I'm going to show a 2-minute clip right now of that.
In a revealing cover story in Vogue magazine, tennis great Serena Williams with baby Alexis Olympia shares her harrowing ordeal.
How you doing, Olympia?
She says holding her baby the first time was an amazing feeling, but the next day, everything went bad. Serena had trouble breathing. She knew it was a sign of blood clots she had suffered before, so she guided her doctors on how to save her life.
Just this idea that somebody like her could experience such a severe complication is, I think, really upsetting to many people and will bring more attention to this issue.
Every year, 50,000 women suffer complications during pregnancy. 700 die. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women, in part because of higher risk factors, diabetes, obesity, and high blood pressure. Today, Serena posted on Facebook, I hope my story can inspire a conversation that gets us to close this gap.
I don't understand.
31-year-old Tunisia died giving birth to her second child when her heart stopped after a C-section.
I'm broken inside. I'm broken. Knowing that how much his mom love him and she's not here.
For me, it's unacceptable.
Doctors say Serena's story is a cautionary tale. So the point being, know your body.
She knew what was wrong. She kept going at it. And I think that's a really important thing, that we all play a role in advocating for ourselves within the healthcare system.
Tonight, Serena Williams, who raised the game for women in tennis, now hopes to raise the standard of care during one of life's best moments. Rahima Ellis, NBC News, New York.
So that video is actually attached to a news article, and the news article goes more into detail about what happened. Serena, as you may have heard, she is the person who told them about the blood clots, that something was wrong. And she was ignored several times, including being asked, why would you think it was a blood clot? And she had to say, this is my experience. This has happened before. I've been treated with this before. And you would think just by that answer, the nurse would go, okay, and then get the doctor. But no, this went on and was ignored for several hours until she was finally able to speak with the doctor, who then took action. So her doctor believed her, but it took several times for the nurse to even understand what was going through, even though this was her own experience. And she said, this happened before, I know what's going on. You know, I feel myself, I'm dying, all that before they did anything about it. And this is, like I mentioned, very well-known woman, a celebrity, and she was treated that way. A related film, who I watched this film recently after hearing about it from my good friend Kathy. It is called Aftershock. It's currently streaming on Hulu. Aftershock is a film that it's a documentary, basically, and it basically highlights these two families that their partners died while giving birth to their child. The child survived, the mom did not. And it's just following these two families and how they fight for justice for their partners. What was really, because this is incredibly sad, because you see these women before, you see them talking and getting excited about their pregnancies, you see their mom there, their husband, their boyfriend, and then this happens. And then one of them, it was her second child. So you see her little girl having to see all of this and knowing her mom's going to give birth and not seeing her after that. And the whole thing is devastating. But then one thing that really stuck out to me is that in this film, both men go to this group, and the group that they're meeting in for mourning for loss of their spouse is a group of Black men, and everybody in the circle is going through the same thing. Like, all of them lost their partners to childbirth from something that was preventable. These women were not sick before. They were all preventable. And you know, when this happens, not everybody even goes to a group to meet. So imagine all the people that didn't go to the group. And this is in relatively the same area where they're able to meet up to mourn together. I just thought that was really sad, and it really stuck out for me a lot. But this is a great film to watch. It goes into details. Several doctors talk, and you hear like the whys and what people are doing to get justice for those families and to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. What can we do? Because yes, documentaries, articles, news, we hear this stuff, we talk about it, but what are we going to do after we talk? One thing we can do is to get a second and sometimes third opinion. You know, when something's wrong or something isn't right, speak up about it. When you're ignored, speak up about it. And then when you're ignored, speak up about it again. Don't back down. If the doctor ignores you, please ask them, and that's the only doctor you have available, ask them to put in your chart that you asked to be tested or brought up something that was wrong with you and you were denied that test. Another thing, we can write down and remember doctors' names and don't be afraid to bring them up. So when you see the next doctor, bring up what happened with the previous doctor or healthcare providers. These are resources that I use to get all my information. And some of them, well, these will be included in the presentation that we'll attach. You can look through like the article that could save Black women's lives is a very good article that I recommend. Thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, first of all, let's give Sarah a strong thank you for putting together that presentation and for that info. And we clap here, so y'all can clap for Sister Sarah putting that presentation together.
Sister Sarah.
And I know I had a couple of thoughts that came up, but I want to save mine for the end. I want to give anyone else here who has any comment or discussion or question about the info shared or anything related to Black women's health to go ahead and give an indication. Throw your hand up so that we can call on you and go ahead and have a quick discussion about that info. We have Amina. Sister Amina, go ahead, Amina.
Okay, I just wanted to go first because I might have to have myself on mute. But Sarah, you did a wonderful job at going over the statistics on the rate that Black women are being ignored and basically treated worse than animals at some point. This is very relatable, and your presentation was very relatable. And this is more of a comment that I have. I'm really glad that you're telling the whole point is speak up, say something, don't stop. It's so after being shot down and shot down and shot down, and they almost start to mess with your head and make you think that you don't know what you're talking about. But it's so important to just stay strong and believe in yourself and know your body, and don't let anyone tell you different. I don't care how many degrees they have, they don't know your body the way you know your body. So good job.
Thank you.
All right, let me see. Janelle put a comment in the chat. You could go ahead and speak that comment into the presentation, into the room there, Janelle. Let's see. Oh, 6 chats.
Oh, it's sick. Oh, okay. I have to look at the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janelle. And there's one, okay, hold on.
This presentation from
Thank you, Adia.
yeah, I know. Well, there's a long history of Black women being
Okay.
disparaged in a variety of ways in the healthcare industry here, from gross experimentation to neglect, as we're talking about here, to also an issue that I guess I've seen is rampant over prescribing of prescription drugs. You know, I know a few people who got almost a freaking medicine cabinet, a pharmacy in their medicine cabinet from just, rampant prescription medications and stuff like that, So the experimentation, I mean, so much of you could have spoken on, I should ask you a question about this, about what's Henrietta Lacks.
Yes.
Because her cells are at the foundation of the entire industry, the entire healthcare industry, in the way that that she was exploited, I guess, in that way, because it wasn't known. Why don't you speak a little bit on that? I don't want to get choppy and try to details,
Well, that started with cancer. She had a type of cancer that the doctors at the time were interested in. They wanted to know how to cure it, but they basically did experiments on her without telling her what was happening. And they used her cells. They never asked to do that. They didn't ask her family. Even after she passed away, they continue to be used.
Yeah.
And that's just like, and I didn't touch on that in the presentation. I really don't like stuff like that, that kind of things happens, but the way that women, there's a whole entire history of Black women being experiments, from C-sections to hysterectomies,
Yeah.
without even knowing it.
Well, it's like the entire field of gynecology is largely based on experimentation done on Black women. A lot of it without their knowledge and sometimes against their will, right? I mean, that's well documented.
There's a question from Kathy and from Tasha. I don't know who had their hand up first.
Either one. Kathy, go ahead.
Well, Bargani, everyone. And of course, healthcare is my area of supposed expertise. But I just wanted to offer some suggestion too, because I've had this ongoing, persistent with friends and my daughters, and telling them, don't allow a doctor to weigh your time by their time. When you go to see your doctor, it's your time, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and go in with the knowledge of you knowing about as much as they do. When you're, as Suja mentioned, when they're prescribing this medication, don't be afraid to ask why, or if there's alternatives. There are alternative medicine that's out there that does not require you to always go and have a prescription. Have your doctor break it down to you like a 2-year-old. They're working for you, not the other way around. They're getting paid, not a whole lot in some instances, but they're getting paid to be your doctor. And if you're not happy with them, if they're not giving you information that you feel is necessary for the goodness of your health, change your doctor. Don't feel stuck in a rut because they're a part of this group or they have, they're with Kaiser. I personally love Kaiser, but be very upfront and open about what it is you're experiencing and come in with notes. I research everything. When a doctor is telling me something about a diagnosis, you want to go in having the knowledge and having them to either correct or either find a way to have alternative methods other than prescribed medication. Diet and exercise works really well. And there's herbs and things that are out there that actually help abate some of the things that doctors will prescribe for you, for your ailments. But you did a wonderful job. And I will also say, Oprah Winfrey did a movie on the sister whose cells were taken without her knowledge. And this was a story that was portrayed by Oprah Winfrey and this woman's daughter. So good job, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for that, for echoing that information. Tasha?
Yes, and a fantastic job. Thank you, Sarah. I think that you have spoke what a lot of us have felt and probably have never expressed before. So it's good to hear it from other people. I did have a question. I know that one of the things you said, which was like, it's very true, right? We often do tell people we have other problems to help somebody else because as Black women, we're very giving, right? We always want to help and make sure everybody else in our life is well. Did you come across anything where it talked about if any other, like if Black men are experiencing the situation? You know, I've never thought of it from their point of view, or like, do they feel unheard in some of the situations when they inquire about their own health?
I actually did not, for this presentation, look into that, but just in So reading, I did see that Black men are significantly less likely to actually go in for problems, but that's men anyway. Men generally, regardless, are more like, or if when they go in, they are dragged by their wife, by their mom. I've heard that before, but I had never seen the actual stats on it. And I saw it and was like, oh, but and there's various reasons why, including trust. Black men are less likely to trust the healthcare system for a variety of reasons than Black women are.
Yeah. Okay, that does also make sense too. But I was just curious to see if like what were the the standards across the board for Black women.
Let me offer a quick response as a Black man, right? We certainly face, varied levels of discrimination out there, just like, any Black person does. But the system, I'm one of them Black men who don't trust the healthcare system from the floor up. I don't trust it at all, right? And they're looking to maximize profit at every turn. So, that causes them to have a track that they're trying to put everybody on. And if you're not with that track, then you get less service from them. So we run into the same things that you all do to some degree. I'm not going to suggest that it's the same. It's sort of like dealing with cars. Sisters, women in general get different treatment in there, and I think the same is true in the healthcare system. One, because as you point out, sisters go in much more frequently than we do. But we run into the same type of stuff and trying to maximize profit, fill us up with drugs and procedures, and not deal with issues at the cause level, but deal with the symptoms. To make all kinds of profit off of that. I got personal experiences with them trying to stick me on heart medication for the rest of my life when I was just dehydrated. I needed water. I didn't need heart medication. So and I'm sure all of the other brothers on here got similar experiences. But what Kathy said is true. You got to be your own advocate. You got to know what's going on for yourself, and you got to be willing to tell them no, to what they be pushing sometimes. So that's it.
Akir had his hand next.
Hello, I just want to say I really liked your presentation, and I wanted to thank you for sharing the statistics that you did, because like you said earlier, I've heard people say Black women are more likely to die during childbirth, but I didn't know how extreme it was. And when you showed statistics like 3 times, that's ridiculous. That's extremely scary. So I definitely understand. And I'm not a woman, I can't even have kids. So I can only imagine what that feels like as someone who's capable of having children. That's very, very scary. And then I want to say the fact that you said even Serena Williams being as rich and famous and extremely talented as she is, that she has to keep asking over and over again and repeating it. I think it's really important that we instill in young Black women this idea of not just giving, because that's a big thing right now where a lot of people want to be people pleasers. And not even just with doctors, but that's a really serious deal. If you want to, if our young women want to please people so badly that they don't even care about their own health, it will be it could be a really, really big problem. And I see that all the time, where it's like we with my peers and people younger than me, they feel like, well, they say something one time, if they don't get whatever response they want to, okay, I'll just be quiet. So thank you for sharing that, and it inspired me to let people know about it as well.
Thank you, Akir. I don't know who was next. I think it was this gentleman here. How do you pronounce your name?
It's Senke.
Senke, yes.
Barigani, everyone. I really enjoyed your presentation. I thought it was very, very informative, and it was just an awesome presentation. Excuse me. I appreciate how you talked about some of the chronic conditions that as a community, and certainly as certainly Black women confront and have to deal with, in terms of the diabetes that you mentioned and the high blood pressure. those kinds of chronic issues. And also, I just appreciate the advice that you gave as far as not being intimidated by your doctors and letting them know what's going on and not being afraid to be a voice of your own advocacy. So thank you so much. Asante.
Thank you, Karibu. I think it was Adia. No, I don't.
It was not me. It
Not
was,
you. Quayle, Dr. Quayle.
yes, yes.
Yes, I wanted to share some information, but first I want to say excellent job, Sarah. I have personal knowledge of your teaching expertise, and I can see that it has just gotten better over time. So great job. Healthcare is one of the areas where there are real differences in human groups. You know, we pay so much attention to this false thing called race that isn't true. But when it comes to medical outcomes, this is an area where genetics actually makes a difference. I cited a book in the chat called The Genetic Lottery, which actually goes through in a couple of chapters of how the healthcare concerns of melanated people are different from those who are less melanated. It's quite interesting. But in a healthcare system, and here I'm going to support what Suja said, but here in a healthcare system that doesn't acknowledge those differences, we have healthcare professionals that want to treat us all the same when our medical needs aren't all the same. And then you mix up the bull stuff of the false racism in with that. And we, the descendants of Africa, have to be very skeptical, and we have to be very proactive in how we prepare ourselves to interact with doctors coming out of mainstream medical schools. And there should be a greater emphasis on holistic and, well, we talk about community-based education. We need to educate our kids from the perspective of our culture and history. We need to also, we need to approach our healthcare from the perspective of our genetics and our history and culture. You know, going to the hospital may be something that we have to do at some point in time, but we need to know that we are going to be interacting with people who probably don't know much about us genetically and how to treat us. So I appreciate your presentation, Sarah, because it raises these kinds of crucial issues. Asante-san.
Thank you. Adia or Carlin?
Hello, family, and hello, Sarah. You did a great job. I absolutely love your presentation. I'm so grateful and thankful that you included the information that you did. You chose just amazing things to talk about. One of the things where you said have the doctor note that they declined your request to order certain labs or things like that. I think that that's incredibly important, and people need to know you can do that. You can say, okay, you don't want to do that test. Can you please put it in my chart that you refuse to do that? It's very important. It's also important for people to know that you can, if you're admitted into a hospital, you can fire a nurse. You can say, I would not like you to be on my case anymore. I do not want you to come into my room. I don't want you to provide me care. If you feel like that person is unsafe, they don't have the right to treat you. They don't have to do that. I think that's super important. We talked, you or not we, but you talked a lot about having an advocate or advocating for yourself. It's incredibly important to advocate for yourself, to do the research. I would also say you should advocate. So you're unmuted, sweetheart. You should bring an advocate with you. I think that that's incredibly important, incredibly important. I've experienced it myself where I went to the hospital. I had an allergic reaction. I said, oh no, immediately, speed dial. Hey, I need you to come. I need you to be my advocate. It's so important that they see you with somebody. It's so important, even from like a nursing standpoint, when you see that family is there, when you see they have support with them, that can be life or death. Just having someone there, and you need to prep them beforehand too. Say, listen, this is what you got to do for me. I need you to know this information. Ask lots of questions. When doctors or nurses hear somebody asking questions, they think, oh, I need to be on my A game because I need to, have the answers that they're looking for. So yes, great presentation. I love you. You did great. Thank you.
Thank you, Adia. And thank you for adding that, because mentally, I had a mental note to add it. The advocate means a lot. You gave an example of having an allergic reaction, and it works in, I think it's always important, but especially I think with young women in like pregnancy, that's even more. That is even women, non-Black women have to go through things. They're not treated as well if they don't have support there in those cases. Thank you.
And can I say one more thing? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just because you brought it up with young women in childbearing. As far as African-American women, of course, you shared some statistics. Those were very nice. I'm taking, courses right now and just learning more about that. And one of the things I've come across reading articles is that, well, of course, we all know that a lot of the information that is shared and commonly known is based on racist research. One of the things I found out is the idea of like pelvic shapes. Doctors think, oh, certain pelvic shapes are more likely to give birth naturally versus a C-section. And that research actually came from racist research comparing or trying to like develop a likeness between African-American women and apes. So basically, it's not in our favor. We're more likely to get C-sections, even just for because of the pelvic shapes we typically have. And that's basically not evidence-based. They came out crazy with that, but it's actually still being practiced now. It's still being taught now. When I was in nursing school, they taught me that racist information. And it's like, it's so important to ask your doctor, even things that are commonly known, ask them, okay, where are you getting this information from? Is it evidence-based? Why do you practice this? Have you seen it in real life? Like, it's just so important to ask a lot of questions and do your own research. Look up peer-reviewed articles, look up the real stuff. Don't just look on, Google, the first thing that pops up, you click it and read it and take it as truth. It's important to deep dive, but yes, all of that, yes.
Thank you, Adia. Carlin? Carlin, do you have a question?
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
Great presentation. And I really wanted to share my experience more than a question. You know that I don't trust doctors whatsoever, because in my experience, they either think I'm there for pills, so they right away tell me we don't give any kind of narcotics, or they don't know what my problem is, even though I've explained it to them. So I always get, well, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to prescribe you? And I usually walk away and just deal with my ailments because I get that from several doctors. And thank you for the statistics, because you do start to think like, oh, well, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just not helpable. if you've gone to several doctors and you keep getting the same reaction and you're not aware that this is how, your client is treated. And also with my pregnancy, I was literally scheduled for a C-section. And they never gave me an actual explanation for it. So I actually was induced, and I almost walked out of the hospital insisting that I give birth naturally. And I did, but I had to do all that. So thank you for this research and having this group and getting this information out there for, because it helps to know when you're going through it.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. And that is, I knew it before, but I forgot about it, but that was true. You basically had to make an entire scene just to have the birth that you wanted to have when there was nothing wrong. They just wanted to do that. And women in general are having C-sections more and more now. I think it's 1/3 of all births today are C-sections, but for Black women, it's more likely that you will have one than non-Black women. There's something in the chat, a lot in the chat. The genetic lottery. Quayle, what was that? Did you speak to that already? Okay, and then, sorry, I missed some things. The 03 video, it could have been made yesterday. Oh, is that the link to it? The link to that, Dr. Quayle? Okay, did anybody else have any questions or comments? Martha?
Hi, I just wanted to say hello, everyone, and wonderful, wonderful presentation. That presentation was so amazing. I really appreciate everything you touched on. And I think the information just really needs to be given to everybody, because a lot of people don't know, but other people just don't want to know. So I really appreciate all the education you gave, and you just touched on everything. And I also appreciate Adia's comment about advocacy, because it really does matter. And just good job.
Thank you. And that what you just said, thank you for saying that about the for echoing that with the advocacy. That's, I don't know why I thought about that in my head and didn't put it down. This is very, very important.
Hey, the video that Quayle posted in the chat is about a 4-minute video titled How Racism Impacts Pregnancy. Would you like us to take a look at that?
Are you asking me or Quayle?
Well, you.
Oh, yeah, we can see it.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
There's no questions right now because we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, if there are any other questions, we can take them. But if not, we can share this video. All right, I'm gonna go ahead to the video then. Let's see, pull this up.
The biggest myth about racial ethnic disparities in infant mortality is that people think that this has to do with just socioeconomics, and that the disparities are really the consequences of racial differences in socioeconomic status. And it isn't that simple.
Infant mortality among white American women with a college degree or higher is about 4 deaths per 1,000 births. But among African American women with the same level of education, infant mortality is about 10 per 1,000 births, almost 3 times higher. In fact, African American mothers with a college degree have worse birth outcomes than white mothers without a high school education.
Think about this. We're talking about African American doctors, lawyers, and business executives, and they still have a higher infant mortality rate than non-Hispanic white women who never went to high school in the first place. So what I've been calling for thinking of an old poem from new perspective to really think the racial and ethnic disparities in birth outcomes from the life course perspective. Simply put, the life course perspective posits that birth outcomes are the product of not simply the 9 months of pregnancy, but really the consequences of potential exposures across the life course of the color. We know that racism is stressful, and we know that stress can impact on health in many different ways. It creates this chronic wear and tear on your body systems to adapt. So it wears on the hormonal system, it wears on the inflammatory functions, it wears on the metabolic functions, and over time creates an overload on all of these organs and systems so that they no longer function optimally.
Everyday racism is like gunning the engine of a car without ever letting up. In fact, people who've looked at blood pressures, measuring ambulatory blood pressures for white folks and black folks, young folks, see that the blood pressures might be the same during the day, but at night the white folks' blood pressures would drop, and the black folks' blood pressures would stay the same. And so it is. It's like gunning the engine of that car, just wearing it out without rest. And I think that the stresses of everyday racism.
And if you were to carry that into the pregnancy, then that gets embedded in the pregnancy physiology of the mother and the developmental biology of the child. Really have done a lot in terms of access and utilization of prenatal care, especially amongst communities of color, and yet we've done very little to reduce prematurity rates. I think that the problem is that with prenatal care, you're trying to cram all these two things in less than 5 months of prenatal care, and then expecting everything to turn out all right again, and to expect prenatal care in less than 9 months to reverse all the cumulative disadvantages and iniquities that's been carried forth over a life course of differential exposures. It's probably expecting too much of prenatal care. But if we're serious about improving birth outcomes and reducing disparities, we got to start taking care of women before pregnancy. And I'm not just talking about that one visit 3 months preconceptionally, talking about when she's a baby inside her mother's womb, an infant and a child and an adolescent, and really taking care of women and families across their life course if we really want to do something.
Thank you for adding that. Carlin, do you have a question, or is that still up?
I don't have any question. It's just still up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of that info in that aligned fully with what Carlin said about her experience. They out there playing. Let's see. What else? Well, let's see. Is there anything else that we can add in the couple of minutes that we have remaining on women's health?
Any other questions or just even comments about what you've heard or seen?
Or any info to share that's related to the topic, and not necessarily covered in the presentation. Kathy, anything you want to share with us in closing?
Excellent job again. And again, we just need to be our voices that speak up and not be afraid to walk out if you have to.
Oh, yes, that's what I wanted to comment on. Adia had mentioned that you are able to say, I don't want that particular nurse or particular doctor. And I did not learn that until I was pregnant with my second child, but you can do that, and not even in just prenatal cases. You can do that anyway, across the board. Men can do that as well. You can switch doctors, and you can definitely be seen by a different nurse.
Oh yeah, I've never been bashful about that. I will dump them in a minute if they are those pill poppers or pill to pill. All they want to do is prescribe pills. I don't stay with them very long. But this is how it is out there. Well, with that, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for.
Oh, Candace has her hand up. Candace and Quayle, yeah.
Ah, okay. Let me get out the way. Go ahead.
Sorry, mine is quick because I was switching over from my cell phone to the computer, so I don't know if I missed this or not, but do you know the percentage of African American doctors and nurses and medical professionals that, like, is there a breakdown for who holds what biases and to what degree?
What
do we find that the biases are held more amongst people who are not African American, or do we find that if you have an African American doctor, are they more likely to listen to you, or is the number the same?
You know what? I didn't look at that specifically, but I did read how when especially Black women wanted Black women doctors, or even Black doctors at all. And it's a lack of that, especially in certain areas, a lack of having the doctors that you want, or they'll say, oh, she's overly full. You have to go to someone else. And I actually have that experience myself with them saying like, oh, that person actually has a lot of people. Maybe you should go to this person over here that just so happens to be a white male. So no, but not specifically on that. Thank you for that question. That is something to look into. And then Dr. Quayle.
Yeah, I have a question. It's a question that anybody can answer, but I'm particularly interested in what the women in the Zoom would think. Is there I'm going to say movement, is there some kind of collective, organized effort to create alternatives to mainstream medicine, something community-based or whatever, that would allow us, especially African women, to have their healthcare concerns addressed properly. There's a lot of discussion, but is there something happening? There's a lot of energy over equal pay, and getting paid. But I'm just wondering, where's the energy on this issue of creating alternatives for healthcare?
I would say, depending on the region, the location where people live in, the want for that is higher. And as far as getting together to create that, it really just depends. So for example, if we're talking about specifically maternity, then there's that whole thing of, okay, we need to limit the not really take away the doctors, but let this more be ran by I'm sorry, hold on. No, I lost my train of thought, trying to fix that.
Like doulas, fertility specialists.
Thank you. Fertility specialists, doulas, get them involved, let them help out. So in that, for maternity, that's what it is. Outside of that, we have to look into that. We only have a minute. Adia, do you have a question or this is a comment?
This was a comment when you said we had a couple minutes left and if anyone wants to say anything. So I'll make it real quick. But I was just going to say, all the information we gave was really great. But just to touch on the fact, that you said African-American women are more likely to suffer from high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that. Those are things that we absolutely need to take seriously. It's very true. So it's important that we work on those things. Diet and exercise are incredibly important. And, just exercise, it decreases the glucose in your bloodstream. So that's something that we really have to focus on. Of course, we want to, take medications and do these things, but preventative is the best thing you could possibly do. So as Black women, we need to really focus on our health, really do those things. And of course we are, you said, what was it? 70-something% of women are focused on taking those,
Preventative measures.
yeah, preventative measures. But yeah, something that we definitely have to look at, because it increases the risk when we try to give birth, it's very important. But yeah, I was just going to say that.
Thank you.
Excellent conversation.
Janelle?
Oh, Janelle, and we'll close out after Janelle.
Mine is really quick. I just wanted to say great job, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me to this Zoom. And also I wish that we could have these conversations in these forums more, because I think they would help and start spreading the word to other people.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Sister Janelle, because we do this every week and you can come back.
Okay.
All right. And with that, I want to thank everybody for taking your time out tonight and coming out. It was a very well attended session. Really appreciate that. And with that, we're going to close out this session and then spend a few minutes in a private session with the group members and talk about a couple of things. So to all our guests, as we always say at the end of our meetings, you don't have to go home, but we got to get up out of here, right? And that's because most people are at home, right? Technically, not, I'm not kicking you out. You don't have to go home. You don't have to go home because you are home, right? And we invite you all to come back again for another session. So if you're not a member of the Inland Area Kwanzaa group, go ahead and exit. And we'll see you again at another session.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bless you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I don't want to take Janelle out. Janelle? I think Janelle is still
Oh, I'm leaving right now. Bye, guys.
in. See ya. And let's see. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all here tonight. I didn't have anything actually for us to talk about as a group, except, for us to do a quick recap on the session for anybody who had a
You still
follow.
have the recording for the.
Oh, thank you. Let me pause that. Stop that.